Hello! Hello, it's Kirsty here. Hopefully I'm in focus. It was International Alopecia Day yesterday, so I thought that, you know, being me and being late to the party, I would do a video today just talking about alopecia, my experience of it, and I'll also try on some different wigs so that if you are looking to buy wigs and you're not sure which ones to go for, then you can see what they're like on a real person rather than on those freakish model websites where they just don't look very good on anybody, to be honest, that's on those websites. Yeah, so starting off, how do I have alopecia, why do I have alopecia? That is a very good question and I don't think anybody really knows the answer to it. I started off losing my hair when I went to university, so when I was about 18, 19. Just in the shower it was coming out a lot more, but then going forward it was originally diagnosed as being lupus, which is an autoimmune condition that sometimes causes your hair to come out. But then I was also diagnosed with autoimmune hepatitis, which is a liver condition, and I was started on a whole load of steroids and other medication, and from that point onwards really my hair started coming out a lot more and getting gradually thinner and thinner, to the extent where I had to actually start wearing a clip-on hairpiece, which was real hair, to just give me a bit more volume because it's particularly thin around the top of my head. But then last year it was getting to the stage where I didn't even really have enough hair to clip it in anymore, so I started wearing full-on synthetic wigs. So some of these I got from the NHS, some of them I have bought, but I'll talk you through each one. So the one I'm wearing right now, this is Julianne, I think. Gosh, it would help if or Juliet. It would help if I actually knew the name of the piece, eh? This is from John Renau, and you can see that it's just actually no, it's Scarlett, it's not Julianne. Julianne is the more expensive version of this. This is the cheapo version. And you can tell at the top it's got kind of like, it's kind of nest, looks like a bird's nest basically. But it's got a lovely, really nice soft waves. So this is quite a nice wig, one that I don't wear too often because of the top. I get a little bit conscious of it. But what I've done is I've put some foundation or concealer along the top, just where the hairline is, to try and make it look a bit more realistic, because sometimes when you get these wigs they look really unrealistic and they have a zigzaggy parting and it's just doesn't look right. So I undo the parting and then I sometimes put concealer in just to make it look a bit more flesh coloured and a bit more realistic, for people who are not looking too closely at your hair. It should look quite natural. So yeah, it's a nice wee wig. The one I do wear most days is my Rene of Paris Evanna. So this is quite cheap actually, considering how often I wear it and how well it's actually worn. So this is a wig by Rene of Paris, and it's really nice, but each one tends to be slightly different. So I have 3 Evannas and they're all quite different styles. I'll show you the same wig in a different colour, but this is the one I wear to work, so I'll just pop it on now and you can see the difference in it. It's not got as much of a defined curl as the one I'm wearing right now. I would say you can see my hair is like quite thin, very thin actually. It takes a bit of time to get used to wearing synthetic wigs. I used to wear a topper, and again that took a bit of time to get used to as well, but once you start wearing them, honestly I thought that synthetic wigs would be really hot and comfortable to wear, and I think that if you're going through chemotherapy, or you know, if your scalp is already quite sensitive, then yes, I think, you know, maybe these wigs can irritate your hair, but I've not had, touch wood, any problems, and even during summer when it gets really hot I find them quite cool, but that's because I don't really have much hair on the top anyway, so yeah, for me not a big problem. This is Evanna, so you can see that she's I normally tie these bits back, but I don't have any clips to hand. I'm quite lucky in that I've still got my hairline, so I can actually take the front of my wigs back and it does blend in quite nicely, so it is a little bit more realistic. I've steamed this wig quite a few times, so if you want to straighten or just sort of spruce up your wig, you can buy like a clothes steamer and just steam it, and it makes it look a little bit more shiny. If it's lost its shininess, or if there's tugs in it, sometimes works quite nicely. But you've got to be really careful, because whatever style you steam it into, it will stay that way just because it's synthetic plastic basically. And never ever ever put any kind of heat like straighteners or hair dryers on your synthetic wigs, because they'll just singe. They are just, at the end of the day, plastic. I was wondering where my other head went, but it's down there. So yeah, this one is the one that I wear a lot to work. And it is really difficult, I think, wearing wigs. Like, it takes a lot of time to get used to get your head round it. It's a big emotional thing to get round. But I think once you do get round that problem and it becomes your normality, then it's actually really good fun. I actually quite enjoy being able to have hair that I just pop on, don't need to worry about, and is probably about 50 times better than anything I would probably have managed to do with my own natural hair. So this one is, I'll just tuck it up at the back. I would normally pin my hair, but I've actually left it down. This is another one from John Renau. I think this one's Julianne. Maybe not. I should really have researched the names before I started doing a video, because I always forget what they're called. I'll put the names in the comments box. This is a much shorter style. And it's really nice. Like, it's nice if it's a hot day, because it lets your neck breathe. But again, it's nice, lovely, soft curls, just a little bit different, and it comes off the top of your face there as well. So shake it to wake it. Again, here I've put a little bit of concealer on this one just because the hairline was a bit unrealistic. It is a little bit bouffon, I think, this wig, like woof, a little bit wiggy, but it's nice. So yeah, this colour has a bit of red in it as well. I can't remember what the colour actually is. I'll put that in the comments as well. I think it's cocoa brown, but yeah, a little bit of red in it, which is quite different, quite nice. So yeah, and you can also tie this one back a little bit. Sometimes I tie the bits at the front back, but it works quite nicely actually, I think, if you just let it all down. So I think for anybody I'll show you two more wigs, but just a quick interlude now. Anybody that is going through alopecia, I think it's a really emotionally draining thing. It's very hard to get round. And of all my medical things that I've got wrong with me, of which there are numerous things, I think the fact that I've lost my hair is probably the hardest thing for me to have gone through. And it's certainly been the only thing that I've cried over nights and nights and nights. And I think the horrible bit is not being in control of your hair falling out. I think the actual falling out is so much worse than, you know, when you're actually left with very little hair and you're like, because then there's some finality about that, and it's some kind of like, okay, I now know how bad it's going to get, I can deal with this now. Whereas when it's falling out, you kind of feel so out of control of the situation. I think that's what's particularly upsetting. But obviously, you know, it's not great when I go to the gym or whatever and I have to tie my hair back and I only make a tiny little ponytail out of what I've got left. But at the end of the day, I think, you know, when you are faced with other medical conditions, you do realise that actually it's, you know, it's just hair. And you just begin to kind of just get used to it. That's not to say that I would, you know, happily go out and not wear a wig in public. I don't think I could actually ever do that. Kudos to the people who do. I think that's really brave. And I guess that's part of my it's a fault maybe of mine. Maybe not a fault, it's the wrong word, but I'm not 100% happy with who I am, comfortable with who I am. and I can't expose that sort of vulnerability to other people, but at the same time I always like to look together, and I think one of the things that helps me deal with my illness is to kind of not let it change my appearance and make me look like I'm ill. So wigs help me do that. So another slight change of wigs. So all the other ones that I've shown you have some kind of curl about them. This is my Kai wig, and it's completely straight. So I'll just show you what it looks like on. And I quite like this one, but it kind of smells a little bit because I wore it on a night out and I've washed it since, but it's still smelling of nightclub, I think, or just pub general. So I'll just pop this one on. There we go. I hope that the hair at my back doesn't, you can't see it through, you probably can, but so this is the straight Kai. It's a really nice wig, and I think it's really nice and sophisticated. It's the hair that I would probably never have had if I had my normal hair, because my natural hair is really curly, really curly, and I always wanted straight hair because you always want what you don't have. The only thing that annoys me slightly about this wig is that it drops down in front of your face, a little bit like that, but it's dead comfy and it's dead nice, just for something a little bit different. So that's Kai. Pop that off again. And then my final wig to show you today is Evanna in a colour called mochaccino. And this has a dark top but then goes into blonde. So I just pop this on. There we go. So again, this one's a little bit wavy. So they're all, this is the same wig as this. You can tell they're like totally different styles, and I think that's something across the board in terms of wigs, is that you can order two that are the same, but they'll be completely different styles. I guess because they're each made individually, it just depends on the manufacturer. But so hopefully, you know, I've shown you a quick whirlwind tour of my different wigs, and if you are looking to buy any, then maybe, you know, you've seen one that's like, oh, that looks quite nice, I'll get that. I know not all of these are available on the NHS, and it depends from region to region, but you know, it's worth exploring your options. And just don't, I think one of the things that I was most upset about having lost my hair was that I felt very alone, particularly as a young lady going through this, young girl, because everybody else has perfect hair, you know, Kardashian-esque hair, but just remember that you're not going through it alone. You know, most women will go through some degree of hair loss, maybe not quite as extreme as what I've gone through, but certainly wearing wigs I think should be destigmatised, and once you get over the initial upset of losing your hair and that sort of part of your identity, you can then begin to have lots of fun with playing around with different hairstyles and really try not to care what other people think. Like, I think wigs are now so realistic that a lot of people won't even know that you're wearing wigs, but if they do, Hakuna Matata, that's their problem. If they've got an issue with it, that's their bad. You just keep being a lovely person, which I'm sure you are. That's what I try and tell myself anyway. Okay, so that's my tribute to International Alopecia Day, over and out, and I hope that you have enjoyed the video and have a have a nice rest of your day. Thank you very much. I'll pop that there and I turn off the video.